Hello everyone, welcome back. And we are streaming how to write a programming language, or rather streaming the active development of a programming language, I guess. I'm not really diving into the nitty gritty, but the idea of the project is I'm writing a slightly research orientated programming language based on, I guess, C styling, and with the aim of it will have a fairly minimal feature set of, shall we say, typical language features that have been around for the last number of years, with an aim of using that as a base for playing out with different language ideas, kind of like a playground or a test lab or something like that, where I can experiment with things like a language focused on really good error handling or different ideas like that. In particular, there's one language that I want to follow up with from Seed. It'll be called Ash, at least provisionally anyway, which is intended to be an alternative to Bash scripting, so the Bash language as opposed to the Bash shell. And so the idea of Ash will be to try and keep a large number of the ergonomics of Bash, but give it a friendlier and, in my mind, more consistent syntax and semantics. And so that's what I'm working on here. Just a quick intro into the development environment. So I run my development environment on a remote server. So all of this is hosted elsewhere. I use Mosh to get a stable connection to the server, so even if my session drops or things like that, it's very easy to reestablish it. I use Tmux for splitting up my single session into multiple internal sessions and windows and panes, and that's what gives me this split view here as well. My development environment is here on the left, and that largely consists of Vim with very little bells and whistles. About the only plugin that I use is NerdTree here. I have a little pane down here that I usually use for running different shell commands. And then on the right, I use an ENTR, the ENTR program to rerun all the tests for the project whenever the tests or source files for the project change. So that's kind of it at the moment. The progress with the language, the C language so far, is, I would say, close to 90% done. At the moment, I'm working on range index assignment. So what does that look like? I think I had it down here. Here's a demo of the features file. So we have, no, sorry, that's list decomposition. I thought I was working on binding range indexing. So maybe there'll be a sample of that in a moment. Oh yeah, so we have it down here. So for example, if we have a variable here and it's at the moment it'll only be a list for the left hand side. Now the right hand side in future could be a list or a string potentially, but the idea is that you can essentially assign to a subset of a list and it will replace the corresponding elements, as you can see down here. And where I'd left this is the feature was more or less complete, if I recall correctly, but I was just in the process of adding success tests. Now I'll need to add some error tests as well, presumably, but we'll focus on getting the feature actually working first. So we have two errors here. So we have two new tests and there were issues with that. The first of which is when I was saying X is 1, 4, this was saying 4 is outside the list bounds. Now, this is the kind of code that could be rife with off by 1 errors and things. I'm terrible for stuff like that. So that's the beauty of tests. I can just plug in what the expected output should be, and as long as I have enough tests and check for boundary conditions comprehensively enough, then I can basically fudge the numbers until stuff starts working consistently. And the second error we were seeing here was in the range index reference test. And it was just saying that A is not defined. So that is on line 1. Oh, and I had corrected that in the meantime. So that used to be just A on its own, which would be referencing an A variable which wasn't defined. So I turned that into a string. And so with that in mind, I'll go ahead and save that update and see what result we get from that. And then while that's running on the right hand side, is because compiles and test reruns take, well, the tests themselves don't seem to take a huge amount of time to run, but certainly the compilation step seems to take a while. Okay, I must have updated that already as well. And line 313. Yes, I had split these into different errors as well, so that I could more easily determine the source of the out of bounds error. So let's take a look at the other test. So we have the reference test is now doing something new. This could just be the formatting, which I was thinking, at least in my mind anyway, I can't remember if I had mentioned it in the stream, but the formatting here, at the moment the language just uses pretty printing of items by default, and so the tests are going to need to expect that. So that seems to be working as expected anyway. The references are being bound as expected. So if I assign the values in X's to the slots in Y's, they will remain as references. So then if I update one of the objects or one of the list indices in the second list, the source values from the original list will also get updated because they're the same, they're references to the same underlying objects. So that is working as expected. So next I'll go ahead and take a look at the range index issues. So let's see, do I have I don't think I have. So what error used that be? Range out of list bounds. And so I'll need to remove that and replace it with 3 other errors. So we're going to have range start out of list bounds, range start after end, and range end out of list bounds. And I don't need to have end there because it's not pertinent to the error, but I could go ahead and I'll go ahead and add list length there. Cool, so that's going to trigger a rerun of the test, even though it's going to fail because those values are those error variants aren't defined yet, so let's go ahead and do those two. Oops. Now, will I allow... No, so you can... The start and end can't be the same either, because it's a no-op, and I wouldn't see any benefit of allowing it. So range start, so it's no longer after end. So kind of crummy English, but it's more accurate. So if something is not less than something else, the other thing is greater than it. No. So it's... I'm just thinking, how can I rephrase this? Like if I change it to range end. Or let's phrase it like this, must be greater. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's try that. How are we looking? Not a value, because that should be end. Let's try that. out of list bounds. Is that an old version of the... Oh no, 1174. Oh no, because I was reusing an old... Okay, so I've kind of messed up. So I've renamed a variant that had been in use. So I was reusing that error variant now. Whether I'll do that in this commit or a following up one, we'll see. But this should give us now enough information to continue on, or at least identify exactly where the error with this bit of code is happening. And yeah, while that's going on as well, I can take a look at the features file. So let's see, range index assign. Well, I just put it into the range indexing section. Nah, but I will move this test so that it's in the same vicinity. And I'll probably use the same basically test as above. So x is 1, 4 is equal to A, B, C, and after, so we'll have this format. Maybe I'll do 7, 8, 9 because afterwards I'm going to want to demonstrate the use of it with strings. And so then that should output 1, 7, 8, 9, 5. I'll need to update the test above to do the same as well. That will be A, B, C when the logic is updated. Okay, so we're still getting an error with the reference test as well. Looks like it's using an old version of, or an old save of this test file. So that should be easy enough to rectify. Range end 4 is greater than list length 3. That's interesting. Is it looking at the list on the right hand side? Ah, yes. Okay, so I'm kind of mixing up things a bit here. So the list length should really be the LHS length. and I already have, maybe I just mixed those up, so this should be the RHS length. Or rather than LHS length, this should be the, we'll say the range length. Yeah, that makes more sense, I think. And I will also update that, so that's destruct, so yeah, let's try that. And I still haven't saved the new test file, so let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and save the features update as well. So that should be what? That should be LHS length, I believe. Yeah, that should be good now. And how are we with the cargo versioning? Yeah, that has been bumped. And we might as well go ahead and so it should be LHS items length, I guess. There's a little bit of lag there, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the stream. Hopefully, anyway. So it looks like... Okay, so there's still the issue with the range index assignment, and I think that's just to do with... Yeah, again, the formatting. And actually strings don't have that, only object keys. And so we also had, where was it, the features file, so I can remove that as well. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and copy that over. extraneous semicolon there. And the issue with the features, only lists can be assigned to range in this indexes got string. And that's what I was expecting, because I haven't added the support for using a string on the right hand side yet. Now, whether I'll try and be a little clever with it and treat the string as a list, or will I just be more straightforward with it? What is a list? In this case, yeah, it's like a vector of valref with sources. I think that could be kind of complicated to handle, as in to make one kind of behave like the other. So what I can do, and let's take a look where this gets called as well, bind range index. So either the value on the, so this is the value on the right hand side, it can be a string or it can be a list now. So maybe I'll just add a new type for that. I could add a new function, but most of the function would be the same. So I think I will create just a mini type. So let's see, enum list or string. I could call it an iterable, even though objects to a certain extent could be iterable as well. I'll say indexable. Yeah. Let's try that. I'll probably have to do something special with the borrowing mechanics, but should be able to sort that out shortly. could define length on indexable, and that would simplify the code up here actually. So maybe I will implement, how do I do that again? Rust implement, no. IMPL. And we'll say fn get, and we'll do fn length. Match self, and let's see, match self, and that will be list items then, and string s len, and then get will return a valref with source, but I think it'll be a reference. The same there, but the difference with this one is I'll need to create a new valref with source, I believe. So it would have to be new string from string. Even though that indexing, I'll probably need to change that from like a Rust char to a string as well, but that's the general skeleton. Oh, sorry, I completely forgot about the chat window. My apologies. Hello, Anna James. I'm sorry. Usually I pop open a little Twitch chat window beside me, and I completely forgot about that today. Things are well. Thanks for joining the chat, and apologies for missing your message. So let's see. Okay, so we've a good few errors here. Let's take a look what's going on. So line 363, we have the value isn't being imported at the moment, so let's go ahead and do that. 355, those both need indexable. And let's save that and see how many of those issues it resolves. So then cannot find string, so I guess I'll need to import that. And 363 cannot find I. That's true. And on line 130 there are mismatched types. Yes, so it's having an issue with the... Oh, maybe it's just... Well, I think the inner type is going to have a problem as well. Maybe not. Oh. Do I need to do that so that it's not a reference anymore? I mean, I could update indexable so that the items there are references, even though could I be bothered dealing with all the lifetime parameters? Similar there to vec. And 365. Yeah, I got an on-site integer. Yeah. Only issue there is that going to essentially stringify an integer rather than actually, what's it called? Is it going to stringify the integer rather than give me the character for that integer? I would say it's going to stringify it, would be my guess. But what I could do is get a substring and then that should keep it as a string rather than me having to put the character into like a whatchamacallit, put the character into a new vector and then try and convert that vector into a string, and it could be lossy even though we know it won't be. So maybe let's just try and get a substring instead. Yeah, returns a sub slice. So I think we can. Okay, so maybe we can do to index plus 1. Let's try that. And I shouldn't need toString anymore. slice index, but this is returning an array of how do I do the panicking version? Because I've done my checks previously, so I don't feel the need to do more error checking at this point. Trying to sub slice. And that also, yeah, that gets, so that gets bytes as well. So it's, it's not doing automatic. Yeah, like, because I don't necessarily want, whatchamacallits. I don't really want bytes. I want characters. So UTF-8 characters. So maybe in that case, it will be smarter to actually handle them separately up here. So we'll go match RHS with the two types of indexables. And so if it's a list, we'll do what we were doing before. However, if it's a string, I'll keep a copy of that because I might be playing around with it a bit. So let's go Rust range string. So yeah, we want an iter. Or can I do character at? Or split into characters? Okay, yeah, this is close to what I want. Like, I basically want a character like index, so to treat the string as an array of characters. Maybe I will convert the string to a list of essentially a list of strings. That'll ref with source. Yeah, I think I'll do it that way. And it might just make life a bit easier. So I'll go back to RHS will be a list, And how do I create a list then here? So a list will be a vector of valref with source as well. So what I can do then in that case is the following. So here I can just do my RHS items as before, but in this case I'm going to do what? Yeah, char indices. In fact, I just want chairs. And it will probably want to be so. So if I go ahead and go s dot iter, no, s dot chairs, and I probably want collect at the end. I want this to be a list. I wonder if it'll be smart enough to handle that. And then for each character, I kind of want it to be a, but it should be a straightforward enough conversion. Rust character to string. Probably just toss string. Yeah. And C to string. Let's try that. I'll also need a test for this as well. So it's in variables, range index, and we'll just keep the same test as before. So it was, or I'll put it into a S is a vector of, okay. Oh no. Okay. Because it's being stored as like a raw string almost. So that's not going to be as straightforward as I thought. But what I might just say is assume ASCII, which isn't great. It would I'm just not going to think about it too much about the encoding. Now, yeah, what I'll do is, in that case, I will go iter each item will, let's see, I'll just, so each item is its own U8. So what I'll do is I'll convert each one into a new string. So let's see. Like this. So now this will mean that UTF-8 won't be handled by those kind of ranges, so it'll split along in between character boundaries. Is that really what I want? Do I even want to support string assignments if I can't do it along character boundaries? Okay, first I think I just want to see it through and see can I do it, but I don't think I'll actually add that as a feature, so I'm just going to do it for pure curiosity. Expect a vector found in an array, so let's go ahead. What's the vec? So I think I can do it like that. So I'll go ahead and remove that from the docs. Okay, that seems to be working now. Or at least compiling anyway. We'll see if it actually works. Nice, and it works. And now that I've proven that to myself, I'm actually going to remove it because of the character boundary issue. Let me think. Like, to me, the use case for it are somewhat limited. What am I doing with iteration actually? So if I iterate over a string, in value in mod, and it will be for, so So it'd be statement for. Oops, did not mean to do that. And 29. Okay, fix that. And let's see, value to pairs, and if it's a string, yeah, I basically iterate the yeah, I'm basically doing the same thing as I was. So will I keep support for that since it stays in line with, so it basically treats a string as an array of bytes. I maybe there's no harm in just having it. Yeah, it should be fine. I think it would be useful to have an error test or some kind of test though that shows how it doesn't work with UTF-8. Though I don't like having raw UTF-8 characters in tests and things. I'll just add a little bit of documentation to say that you shouldn't use the range indexing with strings on the with UTF-8 characters. So if I go back to features, I'll have to re-add that. Oops, no. Oh, I have it open down here. Okay, so I can just do an undo. Okay, and yeah, add some documentation here. And I should add a similar addendum to indexing as well, potentially. I'm not sure. Do I allow string indexing? Oh yeah, I do. warnings. So we have bind, yeah, I corrected that, and then 159. And 346. Clone from interesting. So let's see, RHS items, start range len plus start. Okay, so what is range len plus? Okay. So basically, use Rust's existing support for range index assignment. We'll go clone from slice RHS range len. Can't say that that's that much more readable, to be honest, but it's very likely to be much more performant. I guess that's the trade-off. Anything I can do there to make it look a little bit I think that's too much kind of visual noise for a single line as well. So let's just go ahead and do that. So do we have all the bits that we need? The version bump, documentation, the actual code is looking okay. Value not range indexes. Value not range index assignable. Where does that get raised? Oh, that's value not range indexable. And then there's range index assignment on non-list. I feel like that error might not be used. That might get flagged by Clippy. Okay, so I'll split that. I won't commit that. I'll commit these. Range index assign on non-list. Value not range indexable. I'd say that should be using range index assignable. Yeah, and that reminds me that I need to add some error tests as well. There we go. So now that new error is being used. And let's see. Okay, error tests. Runtime errors. And lists can update range indexes. Then we have range index assignment on a non-list. We'll say non-indexable. I should really have some consistency on when I'm using these apostrophes as well for different error messages. So realistically, I should have it on objects there and lists down here. But I think I'll need to do that some other time. So I'll add that to Scratch. So let me just revisit up there. Okay, that actually cleared. I was expecting to get maybe a warning about a potentially unused error variant, but maybe I saved it in time that it got picked up for the Clippy run. I'd be surprised by that, but it's my best guess anyway. So not index assignable, and we want range index assign on non-indexable. And that happens if we do something like this, and that would be only lists or strings can be assigned to range indexes. And again, terminology around indexes and indices. And then we have some errors for, let me see. So we've done that, and we want the start out of list bounds, start not before end, and end out of list bounds. Am I checking for a positive start, like a range underflow? I think that does get caught somewhere, just not in my main conditions at the moment. So if I go 2 there, range start out of list bounds, which is 0, must be, oh no, that's a different one. Range start is greater than list length, which is 0. So, and then we want range start not before end. Range end 1 must be greater than range start 2. And finally, we have range end out of list bounds. Now, did I get any issues in the last run? No. Now, let's see. I feel like some of the error locations might need to be updated, but we'll see what the actual compiler has to say about that. And let's go ahead and do a bit of git add patching, since we're waiting anyway. Okay, and only one of the tests seem to have an issue. Okay, and that gets caught first. So if I do 1, 2, 3, that should resolve that. I think it would have been nicer if the error positions were a little more accurate. So if it was actually saying that the character position of that error was this little range, so something like 1, 3 or something, but it's fine. Although Clippy might have something to say, I'm not sure. So we'll see. I possibly shouldn't have pushed just yet because I might need to amend something. But I'll just do my old push with lease if I need to. So yeah, I've done all of those. I thought there was something left over with destructuring. I guess not. So then we want to work on, what's it called? Collect and gather. Okay, so there is an issue with the error message still. So I got range start is greater than list length 0. That might be an old instance of that file. Not sure. Anyway, so when we're going to be doing collect and gathering, I guess it'll be simplest to start off with lists anyway. And that will be going into bind as well. And it looks like I have some prior art on that too, so okay, and that's the implementation for objects. I will probably start with lists. Range start is greater than list length 0. Oh, because the left hand side, yeah. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Again, that's a failing of the error messages, but I'm not sure which exact list it's referring to. So I guess I'll just make both of them longer. And we have bind next. And this is a bind list. And that's the list that's on the left hand side. And we'll also have to see is gather. So each list item, at the moment list items is spread. So range end 2. So I've got the error message wrong as well. So let's see. So we have list item gather. Let's see how that affects our, when we add that to our Lallerpop production. So that's for expression lists. So if it's the last item, which is something, so it can't have a comma after it, but if it doesn't have a comma after it, then we can check if it's a gather. And our tests are passing now. Now if, oh, I've added a little bit of code for the, I'll have to comment that out for Clippy, but it's probably already too late for that. What I'll do is I'll just update the bits that I know need to update, which is that and that. And do a git push force with lease. issues. That's nice. So then we'll have new support for isGather. And then that will probably manifest in a few places, but the one we're most interested in here is with bind list 2, 4, 6, 7. So that seems to be the max number of parameters that Clippy will allow without complaining, for the moment anyway. So what I'll probably do is do this, which I've put in a few places. And then that will allow me to do isGather. Or maybe I'll do it like this. Then if it is a gather, what we will do is, how do I handle that in the old version? So that's bind list, bind object. So isGather is actually defined on the elements of the list, but I want to change that so that it's defined on the list AST item instead, rather than the elements. So that might need a bit of reworking potentially. So let's see, where will I go for that? Jump into AST and a list item isGather. So that should only be allowed on the last item. Is there a good way of returning errors from these productions as well? Let's see. errors dot push. We have to error. So finding multiple errors during parsing, even if I just want to find one error. So how would this work even if I was to, gather the errors? I would essentially be saying this instead. And where does expression list get used? At the moment, it's used in two places. So function calls, and not a lover of this, but it might be somewhat necessary if I want to do it the way if I want to do it in a slightly more sensible way. And for this, it's not possible for any other elements to be at the end to use gather anyway. So actually I might not need extra error handling because it should potentially be handled by the grammar. Yeah, not loving the big rework, but can I do it like this instead? Items is gather. Like, I don't love that either, but could be slightly better. At least from the parser side, that seems to have gone as expected without too much issue. So that's in bind, and I also need to update mod. And if we get collect there in a regular expression, that's to be evaluated rather than assigned to, then we say that that's an issue. If collect, at the moment I'll just say panic. And anywhere else in mod 711. Oh, maybe I can't use it that way. If that's the only place where it's getting an issue. Yeah, same error elsewhere as well. Do the same there. What's the issue here? Oh, I don't like that. There seems to be some potentially mismatched parentheses or commas or something like that. Let's see if I can do a diff here and eyeball it. if I reform it for a little more consistency anyway, it could help shine some light on it. That seems to be where we're going wrong. At a hunch, anyway. Let's try that. Okay, it seems to be going in the right direction anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and add some of these errors first of all. So spread non-nested list. So how to phrase this error. So it can only collect list items in a destructure. A separate one for parameters and lists. And that's a function definition. So that should be fine actually. Yeah, so there's no place where a parameter collection would be invalid, in fact. So we'll just have new location error. And so the parameter collection will need to be added to the definition of a function value. So that will need to, that will cause other instances of pattern matching with function values. That will cause them to need to be updated as well. So let's see, parser. Why is it throwing up an error now? There. Should we find items? Collect. So there are a couple of places where that's happening. I'm not sure why any of them would need to be updated to have a semicolon though. I'm not sure. Might need to investigate that further. We have mod 306, and it was function here, collect args. Maybe I could. Nah, that makes sense. Still not sure what's going on there. Okay, and so we have So it shouldn't be in call, it should be in func. And so there's a difference between a function expression and a function statement, but they should both allow for collect args. And I'm also going to update the parser here. So let's see. So that's defining a function statement. Now, why is that param list instead of with function call? It uses item list. Sorry, it's not meant to be function call actually, is it? It's meant to be... Oh, I'm getting all kinds of confused here now. Yeah, so that on the left hand side can have a collect. A call on the other hand cannot be on the left hand side, so that's an error. And then we have function, that's a definition, and so param lists. So I'll need to update param lists so that they too can have a collect at the end. But I will stick with just items for the moment, so I'll actually have to undo a bunch of code here. Whew. But that's okay. Well, I have to admit, I'm getting a bit sleepy here. I don't know if it's the nice warm weather outside or the the slight tedium of the current task, because I'm going a bit back and forth with it. But yeah, that's, I mean, it's coming up to about 2 hours now. I got the range indexing done, which was nice. And I'll take a quick look at the Scratch file, see what's left to be done in general anyway. So yeah, there's still a bit left. So there's the unspreading, which could be a few more sessions. Underscore should be very straightforward, I'd say a half an hour to an hour. Different types of string handling, that's a bit more involved. Error handling depends on how much I'm going to have in this language. And then special access for type methods and props, that'll be very straightforward. So still a few weeks worth of work left in the project, I think, but by that stage it should be in pretty good shape. There are a lot of nice error tests and things like that, so it's going in the right direction. Yeah, so thanks again to anyone watching this. I'm going to sign off for today, and yeah, hope you have a good day and take care.